The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the policy or position of ONTV's management, staff, or board of directors.
Hello and welcome to About Town. My guest today is someone who does not need any introduction, but I'll go ahead and introduce him, Jerry Narsh. And before we start, How are you doing today?
Hi, Sarah. I'm doing just fine, and it's pretty cool that you invited me on your show.
Well, absolutely.
And so we're going to be about town tonight,
We are.
and I love that picture. That's kind of became Lake Orion,
But now it's all about you. So, first things first, did you grow up in Lake Orion?
I well define grow up. I went.
Well,
to
we're all still growing up,
I'm
right?
still growing up. So Lake Orion, I always joked that Lake Orion raised me. I got here as a kid. But I actually went to school and grew up in Waterford Township,
Okay.
in a little corner of Waterford called Drayton Plains over on Oakland Lake.
Okay.
And grew up there, went to Waterford Kettering High School in the Kirk Gibson years. He was a couple of years ahead of me. And then right after high school, moved out to the Orion, Oxford area. Fell in love with, you're right off 75. There's cows, horses, and a cool downtown.
So, what led you to come to Lake Orion?
A really good friend of mine bought a really cool house, and he said, "Hey, Jerry, I can't afford it. Move in with me." So there were three of us, and we were 18, 19-year-old guys living in a 5,000 square foot custom built home.
That must have been a
Um,
lot of fun.
it was tough.
Uh,
And it was a blast, but I worked hard. I had a really good job. I worked at GM. I jumped right into the GM thing at 18, saved up money. So I was driving around in a Corvette and living
oh,
in a really nice house. I'm a young guy, but I worked a lot of, whenever I could. I worked the overtime and banked it up and learned a lot about the work ethic, but really fell in love with North Oakland County.
so what did you do at GM?
I was an assembler, and I put the trucks together at GM Truck and Bus. Did that for about half my career. Then I got promoted. I was one of the youngest supervisors. Went to the what do they call management GM management school,
Mhm.
and became a production supervisor in the heavy truck industry, and did that for about 3-4 years.
And then was there any step in between that and going to the police academy?
Yeah. Well, I was actually working at General Motors, and it was perfect timing. I got laid off, and literally the week I got laid off, an academy position opened. I attended the academy and got called back the Monday after the academy was done. So 3 months for the police academy, and I got called back. So I was doing both.
Hmm.
Fell in love with working with people instead of inanimate objects, and I realized that I had to go. And
What police academy did you go to?
I went to the Macomb
Okay.
Police Academy, Macomb County.
And was it? I assume it was a natural decision to come back to Lake Orion and work here.
Yes. Well, I was actually a reserve police officer at Lake Orion, and Lake Orion sponsored me. So I was there on behalf of Lake Orion PD, and at graduation, I was in a Lake Orion uniform. And back in those days, you graduated the academy, and you got back, and a couple of days go by, and then they just put you to work, and there wasn't a whole lot of field training. And we started a program shortly after that, so I was absolutely terrified. I've never been more scared than my first day after the academy in a police car, thinking, "Oh my gosh, what do I do?"
Well, when I was in law school, I graduated. You passed the bar exam. It's not vocational. You don't know what you're doing. I did do some externships, but I got hired on a Sunday night via voicemail after being told I probably wouldn't get the job because there were so many applicants. This was 2012. Um, I got a call from my former boss saying, "So you're hired. Can you go in on Monday morning and let your replacement know I'm in Hawaii?" So that next day, I had to go in and let the
Oh.
he had quit. It wasn't gonna be like
Oh, okay.
animosity, but
That's worse than an email.
well, yes, I was like, So scariest day is that first day of your
Oh my gosh, yeah.
big boy, big girl job, but you clearly excelled because you are a former police chief.
Well, yeah, and that was a privilege. And I always say that I didn't deserve it. I guess I kind of walked through it and earned it, but I never really. I felt as though I was occupying the office. I was not that person, and that way you never become so possessive
Mhm.
or haughty. Is I had to make sure that the office was always first, and that no matter when I was on my first day or my last, that I didn't mistreat that title or that office because I knew that somebody was going to come in after me, and I followed a lot of great people, and it was just my time to do the best I could.
I appreciate that perspective. I think that perspective gets lost sometimes, not just in every field. So that's very good.
And that's why I say I think Lake Orion raised me because I was a rookie cop in '82,
Mhm.
and then lasted until 2019, and it was quite a journey, my entire adult life. And you learn from the vocations we choose. We not only shape them, they shape us. And so in that process, it taught me so much about the human condition and just people. And there are so many things that I learned from that interaction that I wanted to expand and develop programs based on what I was learning about people, about crime trends, about all of it, the whole big picture, the many hats that we have to wear. And the community responded very well. And I think it was a great community policing has a different meaning to me, I think, than a lot of other police departments. And we put it to play in Lake Orion. And I'm going to continue doing it. I'm doing it now. And it's not, if you open the textbooks, there's this version. It was like we made it 5.0, and where we didn't just listen to people, we got down in the dirt and played with them and did things with them and let us know they identify us by a person as a first name and see the human side of us, and we in turn touch and get to see and heal and help the human side of them. It isn't a job; it really is a ministry.
You guys do a lot. When I see you guys, the police department does a lot of fundraising and charitable work. What's something that is very near and dear to your heart that you've done with the Lake Orion Village Police?
The biggest thing is the Kids and Cops program.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the concept, in fact, it's so simple, it's stupid. But in the fact that it was so simple about 15, 18 years ago, we actually won a Justice Department grant from the U.S. Justice Department. I sent a couple of officers down to D.C., and they got a $20,000 check to support the program. And I remember when I was discussing with them about the program, they said, "What's the program?" I said, "There is no program. That's the program, and that's why it works." So it's off-duty police officers once a month. It was actually once a week, every Friday night. We worked with Lake Orion schools. They gave us a school, Lance Sims Elementary, and we worked with elementary school kids. So it was off-duty officers volunteering their time. We were in our sweatpants and a shirt and our LOPD hats, and we did board games with kids in the library. We played basketball. We played floor hockey. We brought in face artists. The Rainforest Cafe was very generous and kind. Um, oh, lost his name, the frog.
Yep.
Came,
You know what? I don't think I ever knew the frog's name, but
oh, they're going to kill me. Sorry, you guys. But they brought in face artists, and we partnered with so many people and did so many things. But we developed a program that had no program. But the name of it was Healthy Choices. And the instruction I gave to the officers was, look, the only thing we want to do is have fun with these kids and identify with them and play with them. They may, as those relationships develop, want to tell you things that about their family and stuff. The most important thing, we don't ever want parents to think that we're trying to get information from the kids about the parents. They said that'll never happen. What we want to do is develop a relationship where we build this bridge with these kids and identify them, that we can kind of walk across that bridge when we have something to share with them that can prevent something bad in their lives. So we talk to them about the dangers of cell phone and internet access. These are elementary school
Mhm.
kids. We talked about the dangers of bullying and how to resist temptation and peer pressure. But we did it in a way where we were playing floor hockey.
Mhm.
And if we saw something going on, we would intervene with that, because you're going to experience that with kids, even in the middle of play and even with off-duty officers. So we could intervene at that time, but not do it in an authoritarian way, do it more in a coaching way. And we were kind of like coaches there in every aspect of what we did. And the coolest thing for me is that program went on for well over 30 years. And so when I was fresh and young doing the program, and as I left, there were parents bringing their kids in, where the parents were the kids that I had in Kids and Cops. So now they were bringing their kids back, and that was full circle for me. That was cool.
Yeah. Well, that's especially now, given the national situation with a lot of these police departments, bigger cities and whatnot. It's good to see that our local, our community police are trying to get kids to know that you guys are humans,
Just normal guys and
Well,
gals.
but you have to go through training, and you're in a position of being able to help.
Yes. And the really cool thing is the residual effect for the community and for law enforcement is now there is this entire era of kids who have grown up from kindergarten through fifth grade with police officers and getting to know us and us them. Then they move into the tough years, the middle school, but then they're in high school. And anytime one of those kids would see me, it was never Chief Narsh, Lieutenant Narsh, Officer Narsh. It was, "Hi, Officer Jerry," but the face was affectionate. So it changed their perspective about the role of law enforcement at a young age, but at the time where there was so much volatility in their lives, they knew better. And it made a completely different, we saw a complete dip in juvenile crime and recidivism during the times where a lot of these kids were going through this program. They just didn't get in trouble. And if they did, they didn't want to do it in Lake Orion, because why? They had a respect for the officers who respected them back. And we were doing things for them and their families. We wouldn't just play games on a Friday night. If they needed something, we'd get something for the family and take care. You got to know those families and what their needs are. And then we would use our resources and our connections to help that family. So that developed a relationship that I call good government, because government's not bad. Government's good. We've wrecked it pretty much everywhere. But government is just supplying the needs that people can't in a collective and large way to do the best for people, paving roads and, putting out military and doing everything that we need to do in a big way, but in a small way. If we do that with our families and we use our resources to help individual families, it changes lives and it changes perceptions.
Well, and you retired in 2019,
Yes.
correct? And you went from being police chief of Lake Orion to being the police chief in Holly. Is that correct?
Yep. Holly, Michigan.
And you also became a Lake Orion Village Council member.
And where I join you?
Yes. What made you decide to go for it and run?
Yeah. Well, I just, a couple of things. I just didn't want to let go. I mean, this is still my home. And when you invest blood, sweat, and tears and risk your life, at times, I mean, there's many stories. That's a whole nother podcast on all the years of crazy. But and it's
We can get into a little bit of that in a minute, but I want to hear about the village council decision first.
Well, with that comes just learning the town, learning the business owners, learning the lake, learning the different aspects and facets of the community, the night community versus the day community, and why we paved the streets and why these ordinances were passed. And then you finally get to the point you got the knowledge and you walk away. And I thought, you know what? I want to stick around if it will help to make some common sense. Again, some good government to where we can cut through, all the stuff. And it's like, there's so many reasons why we arrived at this point. And I think if we revisit those reasons, everybody will come to the same conclusion, kind of like a jury, and go, oh, that's why we did. You know what? Let's not revisit that again. Or, here's why we're doing that. So I just want to be a part of that help. And just to continually make sure that the town's a success. I've just always felt like a protector,
Mhm.
and
Well,
it,
that was literally your job.
it was everything. And it was my life. It becomes you.
Mhm.
And I mean, I can tell you how many people would come by the house. They just, is Officer Narsh here? Because they had something going on traumatic in their life, and it was okay.
Mhm.
My house was a safe place, but that's the community, and I didn't want to leave that role. So this allowed me to kind of keep going in that role. Not in law enforcement. I stay out of the police department. I know I'm not. Those guys they're doing a great job. They're carrying all those batons and coming up with new ways of doing it, which is cool. Sometimes the old guy has to get out of the way, get some fresh eyes, fresh ears, fresh ideas, and they're doing it. They're doing a great job. So I don't put my hands in there unless they need it and want some help. But it's just being a part of the community and continuing to make sure that we're safe, that we're going the right way, that we have what we need, and that folks in town get what they need. And to use, I've built a lot of relationships in federal government, state government, private business, law, lawyers, attorneys, all across the state and country, and to use those connections for our community to the best of my ability.
So you have this legacy for being the police chief. What do you want your legacy to be from being a village council member? And not only that, you're pro tem. So,
The only legacy I want to leave with is the one I always told people when I worked at the PD is uh, I'm Jerry, right? And that's who I am. Whether it's with the police chief hat on or the council hat, call me up, stop by, let's talk about it. There were so many times where I would arrest people, and instead of doing the conventional method of, you have to go through our process, but I would always try to talk to them and find out, especially if, it was like a domestic violence or a really intoxicated individual we had repeat contacts with. My theory was to have that conversation with them and find out where the crack is, what's going on in your life, man. How can somebody in my role help you? Because clearly it's not working, right? And how many people would have that conversation back with me? So for me, I think the legacy both on council and what I would want to walk away in any role in law enforcement is that I help people,
well, that
individually at that moment that they need it.
yep.
You know,
I When I was in law school, I was a student attorney for Washtenaw Public Defender's Office, and that's when I realized, because the student attorneys, you could um, take on cases up to misdemeanors, and that's when I realized that there's more likely than not, more times than not, something else going on, and it's nice to hear that we've got other people in other professions and law enforcement and law and people who are making decisions about what's going to happen to others. There's usually something else going on. I would actually guess 99.999% something else going on in somebody's life, and sometimes talking to them helps. Sometimes having some repercussions helps, and moving forward from there. But always giving people an option and an
yeah,
outlet.
yeah. It gave an opportunity to talk to somebody that wasn't their wife or husband or uncle or dad or mom that was judgmental. And but hey, if they did the crime, they did the time. But at the same time, I helped them navigate that whole process in a way that they felt respected. Like they were a person, they made a mistake. Yep, you can make mistakes. There are some people that make big mistakes,
Mhm.
and that's something different. But for most people, seldom do we go to a domestic violence where everybody's sober, right?
Mhm.
We know that when we have larceny from autos all of a sudden pop up and they're going on everywhere, and purse thefts and out of grocery carts, we got heroin, right? So we know what those trends are. So it's not just find the people that are addicted to heroin that are doing all the thefts and the stealing. Let's find and let's get them into hope, not handcuffs. We're never going to arrest our way out of a drug addiction problem in the United States. Never going to happen. We'll talk about that till we die, but until we get people to resolve the issues that lead them to, and then get them into a system to cleanse them from the opiates, that's the path out. But finding out those things, because those are the things that prevent then the additional calls to the house, the additional police runs. It benefits everybody. But most importantly, their family, because almost every family I go in where I had these issues and where the department was dealing with that, there's all these little faces. And I always broke my heart.
I want to discuss this more because it's very interesting to me, because when I was at the public defender's office, it was around the time when the opioid crisis was hitting the fan, so to speak. And the change in the views of what that type of addiction was. If somebody's going shoplifting and they're stealing perfume or goods, not
nail polish.
Yeah,
It's a big. Yeah.
any like to resell. That was just starting to become more public knowledge. So it's interesting hearing it from you, because I'm sure you were way ahead of the curve of knowing that. And it was just shocking to all of a sudden have all of this come into fruition. Like it was bad. It was bad. But people just needed help. A lot of people just needed help with the drug addiction part.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that that's the perspective of our police chief.
Well, and not just me. That was the officers, and we built a team, and we coached that team to have that same perception. There's always something behind the issue, and let's find out what that is. Let's find that family, and there's always more that we can do, and the more that we can resolve that, at least in the Lake Orion level, then the less crime we have, and the less we spend on overtime. So it benefits the community all the way around. So it's been a privilege, and but I really enjoy now the council role. I kind of view it the same. I just don't have to get in a car and drive around, But it's the same kind of role for me. It hasn't changed. It's just knowing, kind of making sure what the community needs, whether it's in the business district, the lake, our parking issues, what other issues we have going on. Well, what's the best fixed? I mean, that's kind of what the job of a police officer becomes, is conflict resolution in blinding lightning speed. Sometimes you got to do it in about 3 seconds. Other times you've got someone who's had 45 years of issues and problems in their life, and then you get that call and you got to go there and kind of fix 45 years of failure and pain and hurt in 5 minutes because you got to go to the next call. So, taking that kind of optic on our community and how can we resolve it in the best, fastest way that is at the lowest cost, but with the highest yield for our town. And using those connections, using that knowledge, but knowing what didn't work before, knowing what did work before, and trying not to make the same mistake twice.
Well, I know COVID has thrown a wrench in pretty much every level of society and every outlet of society, but how has it changed your perspective on what you do, how you approach those problems?
From policing or council or?
Well, I guess, let's start with policing and then we can go to the council.
Yeah, well, we had to take a different approach because for me as a police chief, I had to protect my crew first. Because think about this. If your entire police department, and by the way, this happened to a couple of communities in Michigan, if your entire police department, if it spreads through the department, you have no one coming on 911. And that's scary. I mean, there are so many, and so no one's coming. So I had to make sure that we implemented safety measures. We backed off certain things we did. We eliminated, if it's a non-in-progress call, we'll take it over the phone. So you have that less contact. But what I told my community at the same time was, look, we're also protecting you because we're out there dealing with the public all the time. You don't want us coming into your home either. I don't want my staff bringing COVID if we didn't know we had it and we were asymptomatic and we brought it into somebody's home and they get really sick. So it is the antithesis of what I like to do in law enforcement. We had to pull away and become a two-dimensional police, telephone and that kind of thing. So,
Mm.
but everybody did that, and we had to step back a little bit, and it worked. I mean, we fogged our police department, our cars. Um, so from a policing standpoint, it was a little tough, but most folks really were kind of doing the same thing. They were in the house and coming home, and I know the honeydew lists all across America got done. So COVID was huge. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I know there's still some. Amanda, don't call in. There's always going to be those, but I think everybody kind of stayed home and fixed things, and wait, I have 3 kids. What's your name? You get to know family again, and had dinners again together as a family. So from that, from a council perspective, it was devastating. Our business community, you as a small business owner, my heart goes out to you guys and especially everybody whose eggs are in that basket,
Mhm.
and that's their only source of income. It's been devastating and hard. But the cool thing is about Lake Orion is Lake Orion always steps up and seems to find a way.
There has been a lot of community support for the
Oh,
businesses downtown. So
man. And, some of the people, I'll give a shout out to Matt Pfeiffer and some of the people that have um, came up with some ideas to, hey, you know what? There are people that need food. So if we buy gift cards, then the restaurants sell the gift cards and we can give them to them so they get food by going to so everybody wins. So that's kind of that Orion Cares ideas. And of course, as things open again, everybody's rushing back and coming back. And yeah, it's been tough on everybody.
yeah. Um, this is my second podcast, but if you're watching this in a year, um, it's my 15th or whatever. But my first podcast was with Amy Brown, and she's a COVID nurse. She's also a manager. Her and her husband manage Wine Social. And she was saying a lot of small businesses have come out and have, brought food or have, with my shop, I gave gift baskets to the nurses because I thought I was going to scarf from all the hand washing. But it was nice to hear that there's been such support of our first line workers. And I hope that the police department also feels that way too.
Oh, they did. I mean, I think everybody's gained about 10 pounds just in the cookies because everybody they do that for
Uh-huh.
us, and it's so kind of everybody. And thank you. We're never going to turn away cookies. If you're in Holly, apple pie, chocolate chip, anything.
I don't think anybody would want my cookies. I'm not a baker. I can cook, but I cannot bake to save my life.
Well, and those that can do, and they did, and they brought them down. So, and I know that the doctors and nurses and some of what's really cool is the police departments got together and the fire department out of respect for our doctors and nurses that were on the front lines in the hospitals. They were doing little convoys,
Mhm.
turn the lights on and thanking them, and because you get it,
Yeah.
and it's like you had mentioned, you don't realize certain things about a profession until you get into it or you really study it, but then you kind of find out, whoa, there's like 75,000 layers to this I didn't realize. But then when you find out the sacrifices in there, then and then that somebody sees that and recognizes it and cares for them. I can't imagine what those nurses and doctors went through on those original phases where they were working 7 days a week. I'm still without an officer that's a part-time officer that was working at a hospital also. And he was there continually and wasn't able to come work with us. But he was doing the most important thing, and that was taking care of people. And that was job one. But we're Lord willing, we're on the other side of that. And I believe it's now going to go into a manageable disease,
Mhm.
a preventable disease, because the opportunity for the vaccine is there. And as that happens, we then gain that herd immunity, and it becomes something that will be cyclical, just like the flu and other things. But we now have a prevention method, and I encourage people get the vaccine. You're not just protecting yourself. For me, I've got an 8-month-old grandbaby in my house 3 days a week, and my 88-year-old mother lives with me. So I have a duty, kind of, to make sure that I'm not a carrier of something that can really harm them. So, but we all have those people in our lives, right? Whether we come in contact with them casually, professionally, but we kind of have a duty as a society kind of help each other out that way. So the cool thing is I think we're getting that way. And for all my friends who, just really want to see everything open up, I'm there with you, but I want to make sure it's safe for everybody. And the cool thing is, as we get to that point, there'll be less government control. There's good government, and then there's government that we need to step back a little bit. So as long as we do the good government and then step back when everything is reasonable and safe and working, then everything is back to normal. So I think that day is coming very soon.
Has your department gotten, or has it been able to get the vaccine yet? Those who are able to?
We are. Some of us we're police is 1B, so we're less the doctors, frontline workers, paramedics, all those folks are 1A. Then they moved into senior housing, which absolutely those are the folks. You look at all the statistics; those are the folks that need it. I know.
And then they get isolated if they have it. You're in your room.
It's a no-win.
Yeah.
It's just a no-win. So we gladly step back, let those folks. But a lot of the officers yet are still to get it because the 1B isn't up. I know I put in for it about a month and a half ago, and I guess my number's not up yet. I just haven't heard. I know it, but again, they're doing seniors, people over 80 years old. That to me is the target audience, and we want to see in the assisted living homes, we want to see those folks taken care of first. So they'll get to us.
Yep. And I was talking to Amy, and she said that she had received it both shots, and no, it wasn't no big deal. Like it wasn't painful. It was good. She did. My sister got it, and I think she ended up she's an ER doctor, and she got the second dose, which is usually the one if you're going to have like a little reaction. That was going to be she had to go do a 10-hour shift, and she was fine. So
Good to hear.
I
I'll
look forward to that.
Yeah, so do I when I get it.
Well, so you brought up your mother and your 8-month. Tell us a little bit about your family.
I'm blessed. Again, I don't know.
We don't have call-in capabilities here, so you can be honest. You'll just have to deal with it when you get home.
Yeah, no, I'm blessed. I have beautiful wife, Amanda. We're coming up on 30 years, so I
Congratulations.
I popped the question on her last night. I said, look, I want to go somewhere on our 30th, so it's wherever she wants to go on the planet. I don't care.
Did she give you a hint as to where?
I kind of know where that is. I'll keep it a secret, but it's something she's always wanted to do. So we're hoping to do that next year. But 5 boys, a grandson, and then for almost 70 years on the Narsh side in my family, there's never been a girl. So along comes this beautiful little granddaughter, and so she is getting wrecked 3 days a week at my house. So we're having a lot of fun with her, and so life is good. I'm very blessed. Everybody was healthy through the pandemic, so we've been blessed.
Good. That's good to hear. And congratulations on the first girl in your family in 70 years.
I know, yeah. She's a lot of fun. She's got a lot of uncles, and there's a lot of guys watching out for her. I do.
She is never going to date.
No, she's not. No, just, I mean, I've got my own lie detector system built right in. So
right. Yeah, I'm sure you're the one who could like watch somebody's pulse in their neck and be like, no, I'm sorry, you're lying.
Yeah, pretty much. And so it's going to be interesting, but she'll be safe. That's for sure.
Yep. Oh, man. Well, I remember meeting your wife at the Gala does the Christmas gala, or is it Christmas or holiday gala?
Holly Jolly Folly, yeah.
No, thank you.
For the parade.
And I remember you guys were dressed up as the Operation board game. You were the patient.
Of course.
You had the big red nose.
And she's the hot nurse. I always
Yes.
get the goofy uniform, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
and as we
yeah.
were discussing beforehand, I really, really liked her shoes. But no, you guys seem like you guys have a lot of fun together. So congratulations on your 30th.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's a year away. We're at 29, coming up on 29. So that gives me a year to plan.
Yes, and now she knows that you have a year to plan.
Oh yeah. Well, and where she wants to go is kind of cool. It's kind of big, so it ought to be fun, and that's going to be cool.
maybe we should start, taking a betting pool and see where in
Throw darts on the map where
yeah
that might be.
what continent, and then go to the country. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy, but it's something she's wanted to do for a long time. So as we get closer, I guarantee it'll be end up on Facebook. But
All right. Well, we'll be watching.
so, hey, I got to reward her for 30 years of me. I'm busy and I know it's tough. It's tough on family to always be going and
Yeah.
helping other people and doing other things and especially the shift work when you're a police officer. Your weekends are gone. You don't have weekends because you're working. Then you get court on your days off. You get other things call you in. And, there's just so many things that take you away from your family. It makes it hard. So I kind of look forward to making that up to her.
Well, she also worked. You said as a rep, sales.
She was in sales, yeah, most of her life.
So you guys both worked, and you made it work.
Yeah.
What's the one piece of advice you would give? Because 29 years is pretty long. It's a pretty long time,
It is my one.
and 5 boys.
Oh, yeah. It was like, oh, my house, everything was broken and I had no food. The one piece of advice is listen more than you speak. Uh,
If you're the husband,
both, but listen.
Jerry,
And
I was like really on board with that one. My husband is listening in, so okay.
well, it's one of those where just you need to stop making it all about you and really listen to the needs of the other person. And if you really love them and if you really care for them, is do everything you can to help them succeed.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, is just doing everything you can to make them happy. And if it works, then they're going to do everything they can to make you happy. And that's the way it works.
It's a natural quid pro quo
Yeah.
without knowing that you're doing it.
Without knowing that you're doing it. But keep in mind, it took me quite a while to realize that secret, and I was wrong a lot. So, but once I figured out,
I give you a lot of credit for admitting that. I mean, it's probably been 25 years, and you can admit it now.
Yeah.
But no, I'm kidding.
well, once I was wrong a lot, then I had to kind of do the same assessment I did when I analyzed crime patterns and trends. Why am I wrong so much? What am I doing wrong? Where's the crack? What's broken? Oh, me. So I had to learn some things. So she was a patient woman.
Well, again, congratulations. All right. So, if you didn't end up going into the police force, what do you think you'd be doing?
Wow. I've never thought it. I never intended on being a police officer.
I never intended on being an attorney, and there you go.
There you go. Right. I went to GM because that's what my dad did, and it was the thing that when he was young.
Mhm.
That's what you do. And then while I was in there, I realized how absolutely I couldn't stand it. I just hated it, building trucks, and it was inanimate. And there's a truck and another truck, and I liked working with people. But then a friend of mine was a pilot, and he talked me into. He says, "You know what? Commercial aviation is booming. It's great." So I took off in that direction, and I pursued commercial aviation and did that for about a year and a half with a good friend with a freight company, and thought that was going to be. But then I remember I was just on some flight out to Rochester, New York, picking up carburetors at 2 a.m, and the plane's all trimmed off, and you get the engines humming and in sync, and I'm just sitting there realizing it's just like being on the assembly line. There's nobody here to talk to. I'm trapped. I'm a bus driver for car parts, and I knew there was like, oh man, there's got to be something more. And then another friend of mine was a police officer, and he said, "Hey, why don't you take a ride with me?" And what an interesting night. It was a busy night, and we got to be able to interact and stop what was almost some violent stuff, and curb some drama over here, and do some things over here. And I thought, wow, you can actually help and impact and work with people and do all of these things. So if I wasn't, I don't know what it'd be something to do with people. Um,
I'm going to go ahead and throw out something. Actor, because you are IMBD official.
I don't think I just fell up the stairs on that. I
So
did.
what led you to go into acting?
Yeah. Well,
Just for those who don't know what I'm talking about, you've been in a couple of movies that were filmed in downtown Lake Orion,
Mhm.
and playing the police chief in all of them.
No, not all. Well, in the Christmas Story, that was a police chief role. Devil's Night was a police chief role, and but a police officer in another film that's coming out. It's going to be an amazing film. There's a great story on it. There's some really great Hollywood talent is in that film. It's called An Intrusion, and that is coming. It's in post production right now. It's got a pretty impressive cast. Um, but some opportunities to play some other roles. But I don't that happened simply because we've got some great talented movie and filmmakers, even in Lake Orion, and those folks were using our facility and our police cars to do some of their films. Um, and Harley Whalen and his wife. I'm trying to think of the name of the production company. Sorry, Harley. But they made a lot of films down there, and I wanted anything to do with it. My officers were in it, and it was kind of cool. But then I kind of was seeing from the police side of it is, well, you know what? Let me see that script. Okay, well, you know what? This piece right here about how the officers approach that. There could be, this would look more cool on film if we did it,
Mm-hmm.
And then I met a friend who introduced me to a friend on the Devil's Night Dawn of the Nain Rouge film. And originally I was just going to do the law enforcement consulting, that all of these scenes would be, and the way I told the officers is, we're going to do this like they're actual scenes. So it's an actual police call. It removes the tension from them when
Mm-hmm.
they're on camera, but just do as you're trained. And we're going to make it real. We're going to use the radios. We're going to use the MDC, the mobile computers in the cars. Add that level of realism to it. But then the individual who was tapped to pay the police chief he was an LA actor, and he had a kind of a bad incident come up and lost pretty much all of his roles. So then the executive producer called me and said, "Hey, you're a police chief. Why don't you,
Well,
why don't you give it a try?"
didn't need to take any acting courses if you were going to do that.
Well, that was the one side of it, but I had to be somebody I wasn't. So that made it kind of odd because now there's a script, and the person of that chief in that role is not anything like me.
Gotcha.
So even though so
Excuse
that was it was interesting, but that was my first role. So it made it easier by having 20 plus years of the experience on it, but it made it fun and challenging because it wasn't me, so I had to be me, but with a spin,
Gotcha.
and it was fun. Learned a lot of work, but
Excuse me.
I don't think that would have been a profession. I fell into that by virtue of this profession.
Gotcha.
But it's definitely interesting.
Well, so you've lived in Lake Orion quite a while. What's your favorite thing to do in the winter?
Oh man,
Excuse
um,
me, I swallowed the wrong way.
that's just fine. No, winter. I've just so hunkered down with family the last couple of years. We do like to go for walks outside. We used to take the kids sledding all the time. And I'm not much of a snowmobiler, only because I put all my money in a motorcycle, so I wait for spring. And I'm more of a spring guy because then summer. So yeah, I kind of hibernate winter.
Okay, let's move on to spring. So motorcycles. Tell me more about that.
Well, it's just it's that's a itch that I got to scratch. I've always loved motorcycles. So summertime, I like scuba diving. I like water, anything to do with water. I look at water. I always think what's under it, and it's just how cool the bottom's got to look. And
Well, scuba diving is the closest thing to flying that we'll get in our lifetime.
in outer space, yep. It's like being in outer space. And motorcycles, anything beach, sun, family outside, boating, you name it. I just love summertime. And yet here we are in Michigan.
It got up to 33 today. It
It
feels
did.
like it's a balmy
And it felt
33.
good. We're happy.
Yeah.
We're happy at 33. So, but it's coming. Spring's coming. Summer's coming. And we'll have fun. I got my eye on another bike. And oh, was that my outside voice?
Don't worry, we can have Joe edit that out. No, my husband's a big car guy, and finally, well, I'm like, look, if you want to get a car, you can get a car, fancy, whatever. I learned how to drive that car, and now I get it.
Now you get it.
Yeah, I get it now, and I think he fell in love with me all over again when I actually was
Right.
able to drive that car. So, but we'll see. Might have to buy another one if that's gonna
Cool. See, that's
if that's
now
gonna be
something
something we can do.
you can do together and have fun with it. Yeah.
Don't need him to follow me.
Huh.
All right, so now I've got a deck of cards, but with the random questions on them. I'm gonna pick 3 of them, and I'll let you pick one to ask me because fair is fair.
Oh, sure.
All right. I'll actually let you pick 3 numbers 1 through 12.
7.
Okay. And then, oh, these are not in order. Oh, I found it though. I found it. 7. You need 2 more from you.
Oh, okay. Well, let's do 12
Okay.
and let's do 5.
All right. I'll do 2. You can pick one from me, and then we'll go from there. All right. Who is one of your childhood heroes?
Wow. I know it's corny, but I got to say my dad. He's a World War II vet, worked at GM, left, fought overseas, Germany, Europe, won a Bronze Star, came home, worked hard, got us that little house out in Waterford on the lake, and we were everything. That was it. Took us on vacations, and I'll never forget my first commercial airline flight was in the 60s. And, but, he had a philosophy that if you buy new carpet, nobody's going to remember the carpet 30 years from now. But if you instead go on a vacation, the kids will have those memories forever. So, yeah, we had crappy carpet. But, man, did we take cool trips. So, that to me was that work ethic, taking care of family. And and he really was a gentle guy that wanted to take care of his family and so I think that it was kind of the thing that I picked up from him that I've been trying to do is just have everything in place for my family, and that's why I'm still working, right?
That's pretty amazing because that has a ripple effect because you're very well known around here and you're a very nice guy, and that makes everybody else want to be kind and caring. Hopefully,
Well, hopefully my boys too, and all 5, and I hear
and
that all the time
yeah,
too.
all 5.
Yeah, but I hear it all the time too that they're great kids, and I've tried to pass the baton that my dad passed to me. Is you open door for others, you look for ways to help, you be kind, and just always do the right thing. You know what the right thing is, and you got one opportunity to do it. And so I've always tried to teach that with the boys, and I think they've learned that. I think that baton is firmly in their hands. I mean, we all make mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes when I was a kid, and we all do, and that's okay because that's how we learn. But yeah, so I'm hoping that rubs off on them, and they pass that baton to their kids, and it just keeps going because that ripple effect then goes to a lot of other people.
All right, random question number 2. Oh, it's where would you like to travel next? But
Me?
yeah.
Thailand.
Oh.
Yeah. Dive trip.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well.
That was her trip I was talking
Oh, that's right. You know what? That was right. Thailand. All right. Now pick number 1 through 12. That's not 12, 5, or 7. Or 9, because I was asked number 9 last time.
Oh, two. Two for you. What is a movie you have watched multiple times?
Beauty and the Beast. I watched it a lot as a child. That was like my movie. And for those who don't know me very well, that would be pretty shocking because I was a very big tomboy, but I don't know. I just loved the movie. And then when the live version came out, I was like, I had to borrow my neighbor's kid to go see it for a third time in the theater. So it is what it is. I don't know what it is about that movie.
No, this is taking it one step further.
Hmm.
But who is the favorite character and why?
Beast.
Beast?
Because I don't know if I like him more as the Beast or as the Prince. I don't know. It's those hard questions that you don't have the answers to that really make life interesting.
And that's why you watch it over and over.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I also like Lumiere, but that's just because he's funny.
Okay.
So now you know a little bit more about me. Okay, and last one for you. All right. What is something interesting about you? Do you have any hidden talents?
No, none. No, no, I don't know. I've always was gonna play the guitar. I used to play quite a bit when I was young, when I was like 14 through 17, 18, and had some really good equipment, great guitars, and just never had time. My son Andrew is a phenomenal guitarist. He picked it up. He would disagree with me, but it's only because he's put it down for a while. He's now works for an air supplier. He's a mechanic for jets, aircraft. Yeah, so he services aircraft. Busy career, but great guitarist. So that's something I've always wanted to pursue again and pick it back up. So I do actually have. I've got an autographed amp by Steve Vai, one of my go-to guitarists. Eddie Van Halen, Steve Vai, Satriani, some of the just rock guitar. But so I do have a kind of a cool amp, and I got a couple of guitars. So I'm hoping to plug those back in someday.
What's kind of funny you said guitar. I played violin. I played it for like many, many, many years as a kid and was actually quite good at it. However, I dropped it for like all my 20s and I picked it up again. I was like, so when I quit law, right before I started this shop, I started guitar lessons at Orion Music Studio. And that's when I started going into Nuts About Chocolate and meeting Tina. I was like, so I'm thinking about starting a shop down here. What's it like down here? And she looked at me like I was crazy. We are actually very good friends. So hi, Tina. But I ended up not learning an instrument for the first time in your 30s is a lot different than when you're 8.
Oh, yeah.
So, and my teacher was younger than me. I was used to having Dr. Opal, who would bang on my stand as a kid if I was not doing it right. And yell at me. So I needed the fear of God put in me to actually practice and get good at it. So that wasn't exactly happening. He was a very good teacher. I was just a bad student.
But I think music's a feel, and if you played violin and you play an instrument, you feel it. I still like to. My son plays piano. Another son, Anthony's, he can pick up the piano and play, and I can pick up by ear and on the piano more than I can on the guitar. It's kind of interesting, but when you hear it and feel it, you can find it again.
Well, maybe one day. Maybe one day.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being on here today. You're a musician, an actor, police chief and village council member, family guy, and all a guy about town. Because the community, I've noticed when I've been out, when, I've seen you out and about, people are drawn to you. And I think that says that a lot about your impact on this community. So thank you very much for that.
And thank you, Sarah. Thank you for having me on All About Town. It's a privilege, and I'm drawn to the people in this town. It's my home, and I'll never stop just being Jerry. So that's my goal.
Well, all right, you guys. We will see you about town. Have a good one.